You know, Elena, I recently stumbled upon an absolutely fascinating book. It's a grand narrative that maps out astronomy and quantum physics, framing it as a 2 billion-year chronicle of human history.
Oh, that is a striking coincidence, Alex.
Yeah.
I actually just started reading a Substack newsletter myself. It utilizes structural linguistics and acoustic engineering to decode the mysteries of ancient ruins around the globe.
And if you are sitting there listening to this, trying to compute the sheer scale of what we are about to unpack today, I am right there with you. Because we are looking at a narrative that forces the hyper-literal, mathematically rigorous world of astrophysics into a direct collision course with, well, the deepest, most ancient lore of human existence.
It truly is staggering. And to understand the gravity of the archive they're unlocking, you have to first understand the specific polarity of the minds doing the unlocking. We are not dealing with abstract theorists here.
Right, exactly. Let's start with the empirical side of the equation. We have a figure named Kai Hoshino. To understand his methodology is to, understand the strict, unforgiving laws of physical science. He is a genius astrophotographer, half Welsh, half Japanese.
Which is a fascinating duality in itself.
Oh, absolutely. But what really hooked me, strictly from an engineering and scientific standpoint, is that he didn't start in an observatory. He began his career as a traditional plasterer. Like, he spent his early years physically restoring ancient castles in Wales.
Which fundamentally alters how a human being interacts with history, doesn't it? I mean, when you were working with stone, lime, and mortar, you aren't just reading about the past. You are feeling the physical weight of it.
Yeah, you are feeling material stress. You are calculating load-bearing architecture. You are confronting the literal gravity of decay. So he possesses a highly analytical mind that completely rejects armchair theories because his entire cognitive framework is built on rigorous tactile fieldwork.
A very grounded approach.
Exactly. If a theory doesn't hold weight in the physical world, the castle wall collapses, period. And he took that exact same empirical rigor and translated it into his astrophotography. Because capturing the cosmos isn't just pointing a camera upward, It requires optical masterpieces.
And an incredible amount of precision, I would imagine.
Oh, tons of it. It requires specialized gear, perfectly calibrated to capture photons that have been traveling across the vacuum of space for millions of years. He has to mathematically compensate for atmospheric distortion, the rotation of the Earth, everything. He is a man obsessed with capturing absolute, verifiable truth through a lens.
And yet he has this wonderful, unexpected grounding element, doesn't he?
Yes. What I love most about his profile is that he is a die-hard Liverpool fan, a true Copite.
It provides a necessary grounding cord.
It absolutely does. You have this soaring cosmic intellect dealing with the mechanics of the universe, but he is anchored entirely to the mud, the grass, and the collective roaring chaos of a modern stadium. It keeps him tethered to the human experience.
Which is essential, because on the other side of this magnificent equation is Kaho Fujikawa. If he is the empirical lens capturing the hard light of the stars, she is the loom weaving the esoteric threads of our antiquity.
Right, so tell us about her side of the archive.
Well, she is a Japanese costume designer and also the independent publisher behind a solitary, highly specialized house known as Seishusha. Her background is a labyrinth of historical layers. For instance, she possesses a Turkish bloodline spanning 5 generations past.
Oh, really? A Turkish bloodline in a Japanese publisher?
Yes, and it's a geographic detail that, as you'll see, is fundamentally critical to the ancient ruins we will discuss later. She is a profound history geek, and her grasp of classical knowledge mirrors the depths of antiquity itself.
Okay, but this is where the source material takes a massive turn, right? Because we have to talk about her true identity.
It does. It completely shatters conventional historical paradigms. The archive reveals that her true identity, the absolute core of her existence, is that of a priestess of the water goddess.
Wow.
And she harbors the ancient, uncorrupted memories of Aurelia, the archivist of Lyra.
Okay, I need to pause you right there, because if you are listening to this and you have a background in the hard sciences, you probably just hit a massive cognitive wall. I certainly did.
It is quite the leap. I grant you that.
Yeah, it is one thing to talk about a brilliant publisher and an astrophotographer decoding history, but now, we are talking about a costume designer carrying the memories of an archivist from the Lyran star system. From a purely biological standpoint, how does the source material even attempt to justify this without descending into pure fantasy?
That is the critical question, and it's why we must differentiate this from simple mythology. The archive doesn't frame these memories as magical visions. It frames them as encrypted data.
Encrypted data. Interesting.
Exactly. Aurelia was the archivist who masterminded the sealing of her home world. She encoded the entirety of Lyra's records into highly complex ciphers concealed within the true names of human souls. Think of it as a form of cosmic epigenetics.
Right, because we already know that profound trauma can alter human DNA, passing structural changes down through generations.
Exactly. The archive suggests a much more sophisticated version of this data compression at the soul level, waiting for the correct frequency to unlock it.
So if we look at it as dormant, encrypted data requiring a specific key, we have to look at the exact moment that key was turned in the lock. Let's look at the hard data of their meeting, because the physics of this moment are just staggering.
The collision in Kyoto.
Yes. We are talking about February 3, 2021, at Tuji Temple during the Sakutan Risshin.
The 124-year alignment.
Precisely. In orbital mechanics, this is a phenomenal anomaly. It is the exact moment where the dawn of spring coincides perfectly with the new moon. I want you, the listener, to conceptualize the sheer probability of these two specific sets of genetic, historical, and cosmic data intersecting at the exact apex of a 124-year astronomical cycle at that specific coordinate on Earth.
It is a statistical impossibility, isn't it?
It's a 1 in a billion anomaly. In high-energy particle physics, when certain wavelengths of light and sound collide under extreme conditions, they usually annihilate one another. They just cancel out. But in this specific miraculous instance documented in the sources, they do not annihilate. They leave matter behind. They leave a physical footprint in reality.
And that physical footprint is the activation of the Chronos Archive itself. When you take that mathematical anomaly and translate it into the grand theater of cosmic history, a profound truth emerges.
Which is what, exactly?
That this collision at Tuji Temple was not a coincidence. It was not random chance. It is a sheer, undeniable magnetic resonance. It is an absolute gravitational force drawing together intersecting timelines to awaken a memory that has been dormant for eons. The celestial architecture functioned exactly as it was engineered to do.
A magnetic resonance. Okay, the only way my analytical brain can process that is through the lens of quantum entanglement.
Oh, that's a brilliant analogy.
Yeah. If you are unfamiliar, quantum entanglement is a phenomenon where you take two particles and entangle them, and then you can separate them by vast, incomprehensible distances. You could place one in a laboratory in Kyoto and one on the surface of Mars.
And they remain connected.
Instantly. If you measure the spin of one particle, the other particle instantly mirrors that state without any lag in space-time, completely defying the speed of light. It is not magic. It is absolute, verifiable physical law.
Spooky action at a distance, as Einstein called it.
Exactly. What these sources are proposing is that this magnetic resonance operates on that exact same mechanism, just scaled up to the macro level of complex biological organisms. They are entangled particles communicating across a 2 billion-year timeline.
A timeline scarred by unimaginable trauma, I should add.
Sure.
Because if you want to understand why this magnetic resonance is pulling them together right now, in this specific century, you have to look at the deep lore of where they came from.
Right, the cosmic war.
Yes. You must turn your gaze back to Lyra. According to the archives, Lyra was the cradle, the magnificent nursery where the very first humanoids were conceptualized and born. But it was entirely engulfed in a devastating cosmic war that tore across the Milky Way.
2 billion years ago.
2 billion years. We are talking about a four-way conflict of staggering, localized destruction, entwining the star systems of Orion, Sirius, Andromeda, and Lyra. The trauma of that cosmic war, left what the text explicitly refers to as primordial wounds.
Scars that are literally woven into the fabric of our current reality.
Exactly. And to heal those primordial wounds, the 12 priestesses of Lyra made a solemn, unyielding vow. They vowed to carry the encrypted memories of their sealed planet and to endlessly reincarnate upon the Earth.
Navigating human history.
Navigating the slow, heavy, often brutal currents of human history, yes. And they did this with one specific, immutable target to reunite on this terrestrial sphere in the year 2026.
Which begs the ultimate question. Why 2026? If you are a skeptic, you immediately look for the empirical reasoning behind a specific date, and the year 2026 is not arbitrary.
No, it is mathematically dictated.
Right, by what the text defines as the hazard map of Earth's galactic clock. And this is where we have to transition from who they are to the terrifying reality of why they are rushing to decode this archive. Let's look at the astrophysics.
The Earth's instability.
Yeah, the Earth is not a stable, fixed platform. It undergoes a 26,000-year cycle known as axial precession. If you have ever spun a top and watched it as it begins to lose its momentum, you've seen how the axis of the top wobbles, drawing a slow, agonizing circle in the air.
A perfect visual.
The Earth does exactly this. Our planetary axis wobbles over a 26,000-year period. This drastically alters our relationship with the stars, but more importantly, it alters the distribution of solar radiation and gravitational stress on the planet's crust.
And the archive tracks this stress.
Exactly. Based on this clock, the archive predicts colossal, civilization-ending volcanic eruptions. It specifically points to the geological stress accumulating beneath the Era and Kikai calderas. But the most terrifying reality embedded in this data, the real ticking clock, is the recurrence of global-scale Myaki events.
Which is a phenomena that traditional history has, until very recently, completely overlooked or dismissed as myth.
Because they aren't written in ink on parchment, they're
written in radiation.
They're written in radiation, exactly. A Myaki event is a massive, sudden spike in cosmic rays. We are talking about solar flares of an almost unimaginable magnitude impacting the Earth's atmosphere.
And how do we verify this empirically?
Through isotopic signatures, we can look at ancient tree rings, and when we do, we find massive synchronous spikes in the radioactive isotope carbon-14. Around the year 774 AD, and again in 993 AD, the Earth was hammered by cosmic radiation that left a permanent, verifiable chemical burn in the biosphere's timber.
A physical record of cosmic weather.
Yes. The archive utilizes this hard, undeniable tree ring data as an empirical countdown clock. It is a literal hazard map telling us that these cosmic storms are cyclical. They are driven by that 26,000-year precessional wobble, and the math indicates we are moving directly into the crosshairs of the next global-scale event.
Which brings into razor-sharp focus the absolute urgency of ancient antiquity. When you contextualize these astrophysics through the lens of history, the silent ruins of our world suddenly take on a totally different context.
They aren't just monuments.
No, they are desperate communications.
Yeah.
Let us look at Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey. If you recall, this connects directly to Kaho's own 5-generation Turkish lineage. For decades, traditional archaeology has comfortably classified Göbekli Tepe as a rudimentary temple.
Right, a place of early animistic worship for hunter-gatherers.
Exactly. But we know it is at least 14,000 years old. It significantly predates the invention of agriculture. And when you read the carvings upon those massive T-shaped stone pillars, specifically the vulture stone, which depicts intricate celestial alignments, through the lens of this archive, the paradigm shifts entirely.
It becomes a warning.
It is an absolute structural record. It is a 14,000-year-old warning, carved into the enduring memory of stone by ancient archivists who survived a previous cycle of this processional destruction. They used the only medium that could survive millennia of weathering and societal collapse to warn us of these incoming cyclical storms.
And this is exactly where I find myself constantly pushing back against the orthodoxy of modern archaeology. It drives me crazy.
It is incredibly frustrating.
Why is modern society so incredibly arrogant as to dismiss ancient accounts as just primitive storytelling when the hard isotopic tree ring data, the Myaki events, perfectly, flawlessly corroborates the catastrophic cosmic storms described in those exact same ancient texts?
It's a severe cognitive dissonance.
We have fundamentally bifurcated our knowledge. We put the astrophysicists in one building, the archaeologists in another, and the linguists in a third, and we completely ignore the screaming fact that the ancients were trying to hand us a survival manual.
I think it's because accepting it as a survival manual implies an obligation to act on it. But they weren't just handing us a blueprint for understanding the hazard. They were handing us the blueprint for a planetary defense shield.
Okay, now we're talking.
Our ancestors did not merely carve warnings about the cosmic weather. They engineered massive physical solutions to survive it.
I want to dive deep into the mechanics of that survival, because this brings us into the realm of applied megalithic physics. If the Earth is a giant, shifting tectonic plate floating on a sea of magma, and it is being bombarded by cyclical, highly volatile cosmic radiation, how do you stabilize it?
The archive provides an incredibly elegant answer.
It really does. You use piezoelectric dampeners. Modern society looks at the pyramids of Giza or Stonehenge and sees passive, static tombs, or at best, primitive solar calendars. But drawing from the physics outlined in this text, we have to dismantle that idea completely.
They were machines.
Yes. These monuments are heavily composed of quartz-bearing rock, specifically granite. Now, in physics, the piezoelectric effect is a very real, very measurable phenomenon. It was discovered by the Curie brothers back in the 1880s.
How does it work exactly?
Well, when you apply mechanical stress to certain crystalline structures, like physically squeezing quartz, the lattice deforms and it displaces electrons, generating electrical charge. Conversely, if you apply an electrical field to that crystal, it mechanically oscillates.
It breathes,
Yeah.
essentially, like a localized heartbeat.
Exactly, a stone heartbeat. The archive posits that these megaliths were deliberately constructed on precise, high-stress geomagnetic fault lines. The Earth itself is applying the mechanical stress through tectonic friction.
So they are active engines.
Active, highly engineered dampening engines. Their purpose was to stabilize the Earth's crust by transmuting the overwhelming destructive kinetic energy of tectonic shifts and celestial radiation into massive protective magnetic fields. The text refers to these as double tori.
Double tori.
Right. A torus is essentially a donut-shaped magnetic field. A double torus creates a self-sustaining vortex of energy to counter-rotating magnetic fields that ground out catastrophic crustal surges before they can snap the tectonic plates.
And this magnificent defensive engineering is not isolated to the sands of Egypt or the plains of Salisbury. When we map this global energetic grid, it anchors profoundly into the spiritual and geographical lattice of Japan.
Tell me about the grid in Japan.
We look to the esoteric matrix woven by the venerable monk Kukai across the 88 temples of Shikoku. Traditional history frames this merely as a pilgrimage route for the pious, but the archive peels back that layer, revealing it as a colossal macroacoustic resonator.
A macroacoustic resonator. Wow.
Yes. It is a network meticulously woven of light and water. The text describes it forming a Merkaba. Now, visually, a Merkaba is a stellated octahedron. Imagine two intersecting three-dimensional pyramids, a star tetrahedron. It represents immense energetic equilibrium.
Okay, so how did it function in a real-world scenario?
The source material claims that during the devastating Great Hanshin earthquake in 1995, it was this precise acoustic and geomagnetic lattice that absorbed and thwarted the ultimate cataclysm of the Nojima Fault.
Wait, so you're saying the temples literally bound the breaking earth together?
They distributed the seismic load. The energy didn't just dissipate randomly.
Yeah.
We see this same metallurgical alchemy in the ancient deities of Izumo, utilizing the highly specific magnetic frequencies of jade magatama to anchor the unstable land.
That is unbelievable.
And we see it in the prophetic warnings of the 13th century monk Nichiren, who accurately calculated the 300 to 400-year seismic cycle of the Sagami Trough. These weren't mystical prophecies born of meditation, you know. They were highly attuned structural analyses of the Earth's acoustic and magnetic resonance.
It is a brilliant, almost incomprehensible feat of planetary engineering. If you are listening to this and struggling to picture how this works, use an automotive analogy. Imagine a high-performance vehicle hitting a massive pothole at highway speeds.
A violent impact.
Right. If that vehicle has a rigid, solid steel suspension, the kinetic energy of that sudden impact has nowhere to go. It travels straight up and shatters the chassis. But if it has a sophisticated fluid dynamic shock absorber system, that violent kinetic energy is absorbed by the fluid, dispersed, and safely grounded out as heat.
A perfect analogy.
The global network of megaliths, the Great Pyramid, the 88 temples of Shikoku, this entire ancient architectural grid acts as a planetary shock absorber system. It was designed to ground out the terrifying cosmic electrical surges and tectonic ruptures before they could shatter the delicate biosphere that sustains human life.
But here is the crux of the dilemma that the archivists are facing. To activate a machine of that magnitude, you require the correct key. A planetary defense shield cannot be engaged by brute mechanical force or by simply pushing a button.
No, you need frequency.
Exactly. It requires the absolute mathematical precision of frequency. And this forces us to transition from the physical architecture of stone to the ephemeral architecture of sounds and linguistics.
Which is where the physics of this book truly blew my mind. We are talking about the great decrypting of the Sator Square and how it ties to the shifting metric of the North Star. Let's tackle the Sator Square first.
Oh, a legendary puzzle.
If you've studied history, you know it is one of the most famous linguistic enigmas in existence. It is a 2,000-year-old Latin palindrome found in the ruins of Pompeii. A 5x5 grid of letters, Sater arepo tenet opera rotus. It reads the same forwards, backwards, up and down.
And for millennia, scholars dismissed it as clever wordplay, a primitive magical charm, or a hidden Christian symbol.
Right. But the duo at the heart of this archive cracked it by viewing it not as a puzzle of language, but as a literal schematic for quantum physics and acoustic engineering.
Because they recognize that letters are, at their core, visual representations of sound. And sound is frequency.
Exactly. Let's dive into the frequency science they extract from the square, because the numbers here are terrifyingly precise. They decode the square into the absolute tuning pitch of A 432 Hz.
Which is a very significant number in acoustics.
Very significant. In the field of cymatics, which is the study of visible sound and vibration, where you pass frequencies through mediums like sand or water to see the geometric shapes they form, 432 Hz is often considered the mathematical baseline of the universe.
And the archive connects this to the oceans, doesn't it?
It does. It connects this specific tuning to a 150-kilometer low-frequency resonance. Why does that matter? Because that is the exact verifiable acoustic footprint that matches the mournful deep ocean songs of the great whales.
Oh, wow, really?
Yes, the source material explains that when you subject water to these specific low-frequency planetary hums, it alters at the molecular level. Hexagonal water crystals begin to form, and these crystals mathematically bind to the sacred geometry of the C60 fullerene.
And for those of us who aren't quantum chemists, how should we visualize the C60 fullerene?
Ah, right. Think of it as a buckyball. It is a microscopic, highly stable carbon molecule shaped exactly like a soccer ball made of 60 carbon atoms. It is hollow inside, meaning it acts as a molecular cage that can trap other elements safely.
Like a geometric cradle.
Yes, what the text is suggesting is that this is the geometry of life itself being tuned by sound. The Earth's water is being structured by these frequencies to support complex carbon-based life, and the human biological interface for this tuning is incredible.
It really is.
The text introduces a figure named Jyoti Kassapa, an Iranian yoga master carrying ancient Sumerian bloodlines. In 2004 and 2012, he performed a practice where he deliberately seared the intense celestial light of the Venus transit directly into his retina.
Which sounds incredibly dangerous.
Biologically, extreme optical overload like that should blind you instantly. But the archive claims this specific wavelength of light triggered a full awakening of his pineal gland.
Which is a gland actually containing tiny piezoelectric calcite microcrystals, isn't it?
Yes, that is the biological connection. The light acted on those crystals, altering his biology so profoundly that he became a breatharian. The sources claim he now survives solely on sunlight and prana, which the archive redefines not as mystical life force, but as the ambient, verifiable acoustic and light energy woven into the atmosphere.
It is a breathtaking demonstration of human biology acting as an active receiver for cosmic frequencies. But, to tune any receiver, you must know where the signal is originating from. You must understand the celestial pivot.
The North Star metric.
Exactly. This is what the archive so beautifully articulates. You see, we look at Polaris today, shining steadfast in the northern sky, and we assume it has always been the unmoving center of our heavens.
Yeah.
But due to that very 26,000-year axial precession we discussed earlier, that slow wobble of the Earth's top, the North Star shifts.
Right, it moves.
And the historical timeline of humanity is inextricably bound to this shifting pivot. It acts as a metronome for human epochs.
A metronome for history. I love that.
We move from our current anchor of Polaris back into the profound stillness of the 6th century BC, the era of Laozi and early Taoist philosophy, where the pole sat in darkness around a void known as Tai Chi.
Wow, okay.
We go further back to 2800 BC, the era when the Great Pyramids first kissed the clouds, and the North Star was Thuban, the dragon of the ancient skies in the constellation Draco.
Thuban. That's fascinating.
But if we look even further back to the melting of the Ice Age, around 10,000 BC, the dawn of the Jomon era in Japan and the construction of Göbekli Tepe, the North Star, was the mighty constellation of Hercules.
That completely rewrites our understanding of ancient eras.
It does. The archive weaves a profound truth here, that Greek philosophy, such as Plato's accounts of Atlantis and the enduring myths of Lemuria, are not physical, sunken continents of earth and mud waiting to be found at the bottom of the ocean.
What are they, then?
They are profoundly linked to these shifting stars. They are frequencies, epochs of human consciousness governed entirely by the celestial pole of their respective times. We didn't lose continents, we lost the frequencies of those stars.
Which makes you fundamentally question the biological impact of sound and frequency on our own DNA over vast stretches of time. If you think this sounds too esoteric, I want you to consider the exact resonance trapped within the ancient timbre of a Stradivarius violin.
Oh, the Maunder minimum connection.
Exactly. Modern acoustics can analyze the shape, the varnish, the cellular density of the wood of a Stradivarius, but modern luthiers can never perfectly replicate the soul of that sound. Why? Because the wood itself grew during the Maunder minimum.
A period of extreme solar quiet.
Right, a period of anomalous, drastically reduced solar activity in the 17th century that altered the carbon density of the Earth's timber. That violin is a physical recording of the Earth's atmospheric frequency from centuries ago.
A time capsule of sound.
If a simple wooden box can trap an acoustic signature so perfectly that it resonates for centuries, you absolutely must consider how the exact frequencies we've been discussing, the 432 hertz, the 150-kilometer whale songs, the light of the shifting North Star might mimic the very frequencies required to tune human DNA. We are essentially liquid tuning forks composed of structured water and carbon waiting for the right note to be struck.
And that note, according to the Chronos Archive, is preparing to be struck. As we synthesize this vast 2-billion-year history of cosmic wars, megalithic physics, and ancient ruins into the imminent present, we reach the gathering.
The year 2026.
The terrestrial year 2026. The 12 priestesses of Lyra, bearing their respective encrypted musical notes, are finally converging from the four winds. This is not a metaphor. It is not a poetic allegory. It is the final movement of an epic structural symphony designed to initiate what the text calls the Great Tuning.
The mechanics of this finale are a masterclass in combining climatic engineering with acoustic physics. Because the priestesses aren't just chanting, they are utilizing the fractal architecture of prime number.
Prime numbers. Why specifically primes?
Because if you look at mathematics, primes are the indivisible building blocks of all numbers. They can only be divided by one in themselves. They are structurally pure.
So they cannot be distorted.
Exactly. The archive indicates they are using these primes to generate a primordial chord, a pure, unadulterated frequency that cannot be broken down by atmospheric interference. The objective is to cast a monumental geomagnetic counterspin upon the Earth, broadcasting from the deep tectonic nexus of Lake Suwa in Japan.
Lake Suwa.
Right, they're physically forcing the planetary magnetic field to stabilize against the incoming cosmic radiation.
But it is incredibly dangerous, because they aren't just fighting the incoming storms, they are fighting the corrupted memory of the past.
Yes, the text reveals there are corrupted data residues from the Sirius star system.
The karmic debris.
Exactly, the actual karmic debris and energetic fallout from that ancient cosmic war. The archive details a highly perilous ritual of quarantine and encryption executed deep beneath the glass pyramids and shadows of the Musée du Louvre.
Using the geometry of the Louvre pyramids.
Right, they are using the glass pyramids to isolate and contain this corrupted Sirius data, and the sheer acoustic energy being marshaled here is immensely volatile. When you unleash absolute ancient acoustic data, it refuses to be caged within the artificial mathematical rigidity of our modern 12-tone musical scale.
It breaks the scale.
When that data breaks out of the 12-tone cage, it unleashes raw, unbridled quantum chaos. The text refers to this state as chaos. It is a moment where the very fabric of reality threatens to pull apart under the acoustic load.
But from that terrifying, churning vortex of quantum chaos emerges the ultimate cosmic order. The majestic climax of the archive paints a breathtaking vision of the far future.
Beyond 2026.
Yes, we look beyond 2026 toward the year 13,500 AD. In that distant epoch, Vega, the sovereign sapphire jewel of the Lyran constellation, will ascend to its rightful place as the ultimate North Star.
Vega as the North Star.
It is at this celestial zenith that the priestesses will deploy the music of the spheres from within the hidden, highly calibrated resonance chambers of the Great Pyramid. This solitary mathematical act achieves what the archive calls the cosmic harmonia.
The final transmutation.
It is the absolute final transmutation of the heady, blood-stained karma of those ancient cosmic wars. It shifts the entire Earth into the transcendent timeline of the overtones. It is the definitive absolute healing for all of those primordial wounds that have haunted the human spirit since the dawn of creation.
Before we wrap up, if you are listening to this, I want you to look up at the night sky tonight. Think about the starlight hitting your eyes. It takes years for that light to reach us. You are quite literally looking at the past. But what if the specific frequencies of that light are actually programming your future? What if your very DNA is a receiver, and the stars are broadcasting an ancient update you just haven't downloaded yet? It's something to think about.
It truly is an intellectual investment, unlike anything I've ever encountered. I can barely restrain my anticipation for next Friday's update on Substack. If you carry the ancient cosmic memories within you, this frequency is calling your name.
Letters by letter, volume by volume, this extraordinary duo is ready to lift the veil. The Chronos Archive is now open. Let the great tuning begin. Star-crossed souls.